Hello friends, our project title is a new approach algorithm for secure e-money transfer. Let's start with the introduction. If you see the present days, most of the people all over the world are completing their transactions on internet, right? But they conquer about the security of the system. The growth in online transactions has resulted in the great demand for the fast and accurate user identifications. Like we have a conventional methods of identification based on ID cards, like social security numbers, even passwords, but altogether are not reliable. The identification and authentications by individual biometric characters is becoming an acceptance procedure that is slowly replacing the most popular identification techniques like passwords. Among all the biometrics, fingerprints based identification is one of the most mature and proven technique. So among we have combined all these technologies like conventional system, biometric security, global positioning system, which is called as GPS, and mobile messaging. And we have designed an algorithm which increases security of the electronic transactions and and it is more reliable to the user. Today, the relational economies, societies, cultures, and educations are integrated to a global spanning network of communication and trade. Today, most of the businesses deals, like if you say order receives, delivery confirmations, transaction and business communications are done on internet. By the rapid development of banking technologies, banks provide facilities to their clients to transfer their money from one account through a security system using internet. This system is known as electronic transactions. Notwithstanding, we live in the world where people no longer want to encounter in the long queues for any reason. They don't want to wait too long before they attended to, and this led to the increasing services being rendered by the bank to further improve the convenience of the banking through the means of electronic banking. The growing rate of the popularity of the electronic transactions are increasing day by day. Nowadays, most of the people make their banking activities such as cash withdrawals, money transfers, paying their AT&T and Sprint bills, like I mean to say phone bills and electricity bills, online purchases, beyond office hours without physical intervention with bank staff using internet. Bank facilitated their customers to carry out bank transactions like deposits, transfers, balance inquiries, mini statements, withdrawals, and fast cash, etc., in various ways. There are two ways where customer can perform their banking activities. Firstly, one should interact with banking staff, and second one is the electronic transactions. For example, like ATM transaction, online transaction, and e-cards, like e-coins. In the first case, bank staff mutually authenticates a user based on checkbook, customer sign, and photos. But in the second case, case of electronic transaction, bank follows conventional methods where authentication a user based on user ID and PIN. But in this case, security is one of the major issue. So, but the currently bank provides conventional security, which is authentication used by username and password. Coming to the major challenges and security problems, in recent years, the rate of cybercrime increased day by day. The criminal attack not only cybersecurity and cyber information, but also collect personal informations and attack on electronic banking system. A lot of criminals enter into the banking database by breaking security and steal customer personal details, which may be like account information, credit information, user ID, passwords, etc., by illegal means. Once criminals get personal information, then the user account is vulnerable to attack. It's not only trends for user but also for the bank. Prevailing techniques of the user authentication, which involve the use of either password and user IDs or like identification cards and pins, which suffer from several limitations. Like passwords and pins can be critically acquired by direct observations, right? So currently there is a lot of scientists working on online transaction system. Most of the banking system supported both physical and online transactions. But if you see electronic bank transaction system is increasing popularity due to widespread use of internet-based shopping and banking. That's why all the bank think that they provide their most of the services at internet. In that case, most concurred about the security. So without ensuring security, it can't be a promising system to the customer, right? The need of security is a constant of doing businesses over the internet because the internet is a broadcast medium, right? So electronic security enhances or adds value to the naked network, and it is composed of both software and hardware infrastructures. Let's see of software infrastructure. It has the components like policies, process, protocols, guidance that creates the protective environment to keep the system and data from compromise. On the other hand, the hardware infrastructure consists of the actual hardware and software needs to protect the system and its data from external and internal threats to the security. Lot of scientists working on cybersecurity and propose the techniques to protect the online users from cyber crimes. Currently, there are several techniques available for ensuring security, but not satisfied by all levels of users. So, our main goal of our work is defining a system for electronic transaction which is reliable to both user and bank. We have designed an algorithm which ensures high level security in electronic transactions and define an efficient and high scalable money transaction system. From the starting of the presentation, I was using the term called e-money, right? But do you guys know what is e-money? Let's start. Electronic money or e-money is an involving term that has different meanings, but in principle, it involves the use of computer networks and digital storage value systems that stores and transmits money. It may have like officially legal status or not. It may be historical, current, or theoretical, but the underlying principle of electronic money involves the use of computer networks such as internet and digital storage value systems. I can give you some examples. Examples of e-money are bank deposits, fund transfers, direct deposits, payment processing, and digital currencies. Money can be understood as a way of storing and transmitting conventional money through electronic systems or as digital currencies, which vary in value and is tradable as a currency in its own. Electronic money is a digital equivalent of cash stored on electric devices or remotely at the server. Let's move on to the next slide. Uh, the topic is e-security or electronic money transaction. If you see, there are several aspects to security when deals with the electronic transaction. The first issue is the security of the transaction. Guys, I'm asking you a question. How does one know that the customer is valid or not? Encryption and special series numbers are supported to all the issuing banks to verify quickly the authenticity of the e-money. The ultimate area of security is faith in the currency, right? So let's define about e-security. E-security can be described as, on one hand, of those policies, guidance lines, processes, and actions needed to enable electronic transactions to be carried out with a minimum risk of breach and thief. And e-security is a tool or a technique or a process used to protect a system's information assets. Information is a variable, statistic asset that must be managed and protected accordingly. The degree of e-security used for any activity should be proportionally to the activity's underlying value. This security is a risk management or risk mitigation tool, and appropriate security means mitigation of the risk for the underlying transactions in proportional to its value. Security measures at banks can play a critical and contributory role in preventing attacks on customers. These measures are of paramount importance when considering vulnerabilities in civil litigations, and banks must meet certain standards in order to ensure a safe and secure banking environment for these customers. Let's move to the next slide. Our main goal of this work is defining a system for electronic transactions which is reliable to the both user and bank. So we have designed an algorithm which ensures high level security in electronic transactions and define an efficient and high scalable money transaction system. So the goal our goal is to provide an solution regarding cybersecurity in electronic money transaction. So we have proposed an algorithm with three level security for ensuring security at the electronic transaction. Electronic money transfer system facilitates the transactions all over internet and also known as sample of electronic data interchange EDI. E-payment systems have become increasing popularity due to the widespread use of internet-based shopping and banking. See, I have already discussed about the major challenges of online transactions and security, right? So next move on to the next slide. We have designed an algorithm with combination of conventional and advanced security ensuring technologies. Our algorithm ensures e-security using three-level security system. The first layer is conventional e-security using username and PIN number, and the second one is biometrics using fingerprint. The third one is mobile security using GPS or like mobile SMS. To be more clear, let's see in this diagram. So there are three layers. First one is conventional using username and PIN, right? So it takes the data from the user data. And the second layer is biometrics, which uses the fingerprints from the biometric data. And the third one is mobile security using GPS, which takes the information from the mobile, which is like the user data. Let's start with the first layer. So it is a conventional system for authenticate user in online. Not only electronic transaction system, most of the system authenticates the user using the username and password. As a basic in this proposed system, first step, the customer uses ATM system by his or her username and PIN. There is no need to convey any physical devices like ATM card. It's our main challenge that proposed system eliminates conventional ATM card. Customers get username and PIN when he or she opens an account for a transaction in any bank. PIN generation technique is a system generate a PIN and sends it to the corresponding customer mobile. Customer can change PIN by logging into the system. When customer provides username and PIN into the ATM system, the system authenticates user from user information data table from the bank server. If authentication is allowed, then the customer is proceeded to the level 2 security. Otherwise, it provides 5 times resubmission username and PIN. After trying 4 times, it's terminating the transaction and goes offline to 30 minutes. In that time, customer can't transaction from any ATM system. In initial cases, customer need to contact bank physically. So, to have a more clear idea, we have provided a flow chart. Let's start. When the user comes to the ATM system, he has to provide the username and PIN. So from here we have three cases. First, if the username and PIN is correct and the count is less than 5, then it goes to the level 2 from the decision box. The second case, if the password and PIN is wrong and but the count is less than 5, then it goes again to the provide username and PIN box. But in the third case, if the username and PIN is incorrect and the count is also greater than 5, and again from the left side it directly goes to the termination. So this is about the layer 1 discrimination. So let's go to the level 2. Single level 1 system allows user to access level 2 security. It's a biometric security system. In modern technologies, there are several biometric security systems are available, but most common and reliable security system is fingerprints and iris recognition. This level 2 can accept both biometric technologies based on vendor and customer choice. Here we have only described fingerprint as a biometric security ensuring technology. Biometric authentications have become more and more popular in the bank and financial sector. The idea of fingerprints is not only for security but also to overcome the lack of customer understanding on ATM concept. We proposed ATM with biometrics as fingerprint security system in order to meet its customers needs. How many of their have savings account and need to access their amount during non-banking hours. The ATM with fingerprint scanner offer excellent security to customers since there is low possibility of fraud. By using fingerprint recognition, customers are more comfortable with the idea of saving their money with the bank because they understand that no one can replicate their fingerprints and take their money. Fingerprint authentication is the most popular method among all biometric authentications. Fingerprint based identification is one of the most mature and proven techniques. In bank systems, biometrics hold the promise of fast, easy to use, accurate, reliable, and less expensive authentication for the variety of applications. At the time of transaction, customer enrollment their fingerprints to high resolution fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint image is transmitted to the central server via secure channel. At the bank terminal, the minute extraction and matching are performed to verify the presented fingerprint image belonging to the claimed user in the bank database. The authentication is signed if the minute matching are successful. The proposed system is fast and more secure. So, to have a brief uh, explanation, once look at this block diagram. A basic biometric authentication system consists of six main components. They are fingerprint scanner, preprocessor, feature extractor, database, and matcher and Bayesian module. Th- Uh, we'll discuss these components briefly. The function of the scanner is to scan the biometric trail of the customer. The preprocessor process biometric data and ready for feature extraction. The function of the feature extraction module is to extract the feature set from the scanned biometric data. This feature set is then stored into the template database. The matcher module takes two inputs. First one is feature set from the template database and the second one is feature set of the user who wants to authenticate his or her and compare the similarities between the two sets. In the last module, that is, the verification module makes the decision according to the matching of the two feature sets. Biometrics is a rapidly evolving technology that is being widely used in forensics such as criminal identifications and prison security, and that has the potential to be used in large range of civilian application areas. Biometrics can be used to prevent unauthorized access to ATMs, cellular phones, smart cards, desktop PCs, workstations, and computer networks. In my system, we have allowed three times of input fingerprints. If it fails first two times, then it authenticate valid user. Same as level 1 security, it goes to offline for 30 minutes if the customer exceed trialing limit. The whole system will be explained by my friend in the coming slides. If authentication passes, it goes to the level 3 security system.
Hello, this is Dinesh Kumar Reddy. Um, I'll be explaining the remaining part of the presentation. So my friend has explained about layer 1 and layer 2 security, so I'll be continuing from layer 3 security. So this layer is all about ensuring the security using mobile. It's completely optional based on customer choice, and if the customers want to ensure high level of security, then he or she can allow mobile security. After successfully authenticating from layer 2, it checks whether layer 3 is enabled or not. If it's not, then it goes to login into customer account directly. If layer 3 is enabled, then the system will wait for the authentication in this step. Here we have introduced two types of mobile security. The two types are, one is GPS based authentication and the second one is authenticate via mobile message. So let's talk about those two types now. So first one, the GPS enabled authentication. This step is optional and enabled based on user choice, as I said before. In GPS based authentication, customer need to register valid mobile device and number into the system, and it's mandatory to bring mobile when go for transaction. ATM ensures valid customer based on customer mobile location. If customer mobile location is same as the ATM location, then system ensures that this customer is valid and proceed to log in into customer account. Otherwise, the system will reject the transaction process and it goes to offline. As we have mentioned before, if this layer is failed due to multiple attempts from the user, then the system will go offline for 30 minutes. And the second one is authenticating via mobile messaging. So here the user gets an SMS from after logging in from any system for authentication. SMS based authentication is used most of the online authentication system. In the modern system, the user gets an SMS after logging any system for authentication. SMS contains a security code for ensuring security. User provides credential data after getting message in mobile. If user put correct SMS code, then the system considers this user as a valid one. In that case, like as other existing SMS-based authentication technique, after passing layer 2 security, it sends a message to customer mobile with credential data. Usually it will be a 4-digit code. After getting message, customer provided it to the system as an input. If the credentials are matched with the data, then it ensures customer is authenticated, provided permission to access account, and then transaction, and then the remaining transactions like withdrawals or transaction of any other kind of thing. If user provide the wrong code, then it provides 3 times options to re-input the security data. After trying for 3 times, the system will terminate the transaction process. After passing all layer authentication, system guaranteed that this user is valid and ensures customer account from fraud process. If any customer process authentication, then he or she can transaction their money electronically. Customers can deposit their money, can withdraw, or the bill payment. Customers can make e-coin from the system. So these are the layers which we have mentioned in the system. And the full workflow for this system is shown in this figure clearly. So as we mentioned earlier, after starting the process, the first layer will ensure the first layer is for providing the username and PIN. So if the user has provided the correct username and PIN, then the system will proceed further. Otherwise, it's gonna give four times chances, and if the user entered the credentials invalidly, then the system will terminate the process and it will remain offline for 30 minutes as we mentioned earlier. So this is the first layer of security, and if this layer 1 has been proceeded successfully, then the system will get into the second layer security. The second layer security is obviously, as mentioned by my friend, it will check for the fingerprint or iris biometric input. Ideally, the system will give 3 chances for giving the input correctly, and if the user gives the input incorrectly for 3 times, then the system will terminate the process and it will stay idle for 30 minutes, as we mentioned before. So this is the second check for the layer, second layer security for the system. And if the user is successfully proceeded to the third layer, then as we mentioned earlier, the third layer security is mobile security. And as I mentioned earlier, this is optional to the user. If the mobile security is enabled, then if the mobile security is not enabled, then directly the transaction will get started, and the user could be able to access the account details and do the transactions. If the mobile security is enabled, then the user must proceed with the flow and have to pass through the third level of security. As I mentioned earlier, the mobile security is to send an SMS with credential data, and if the credentials are matching, then it will go for further. As I mentioned earlier, the first one is for checking the GPS based authentication, right? So if the location is matching, I mean the location where the SMS is getting to the mobile and the location of the ATM are matching, then the system will ask for the inputs SMS credential data. Otherwise, the transaction will stay idle again. After entering the SMS credential data, the system will check for the credentials if they are matching or not. If the credentials are matching, the transaction will start and the user could be able to access the account details. If the credentials are mismatching, then the authentication will get failed and the process will exit. This is the full workflow of the system. So proceeding to the result analysis. The result analysis contains this as we have mentioned in the system. As we mentioned already, the system contains the following infrastructure: an ATM with high quality fingerprint scanner and GPS enabled device, and the second one is a server for string user data, and the third one is mobile device with GPS system. Let's go to the process now. Generally, user goes to the ATM and start accessing his account by passing these 3 layers securities as we mentioned above. So the first one, for the first time, if the user needs to open an account at bank for money transaction, bank stores their personal information with biometric data and the financial information. If user has account on bank, then he or she can be able to transact from the ATM directly. Now user will directly go to the ATM and start accessing his or her account by passing 3 layer securities as we mentioned above. First of all, the first stage, the transaction goes for the system will ask for username and the PIN. The user will be providing username and PIN. If the credentials are matching, the system will the user will be able to log in with the credentials and will proceed to the further process. In the second layer, as we have mentioned, the customer will input his or her fingerprint using fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint match algorithm will match the information and authentication of the user. If the information is matched with the database, the bank stores the information as I mentioned, right? So if the information is matched with the bank database, then it goes to the third layer. Otherwise, it provides 3 options for re-entering the fingerprint ID. If still the credentials are not matching, the biometric data is not matching, then it will exit from the system. If the information is matches with the database, then it goes to third layer. It shows then after pausing second layer, it shows the system will show the customer's basic data on screen for short time and goes down to the next phase. This is a phase where the user will be able to see the customer basic data on screen, like the basic data of the user, the name, the address, and the account number and the account type of the user. This screen will appear right after the second layer of authentication. After passing second layer, it shows the data on screen for short time and goes to the second phase. As I mentioned before, the third layer of security is purely the choice for the user. If the mobile security is enabled, then it will proceed to the third layer. Otherwise, after passing second layer, it directly permitted the user to access his or her account. For the case of GPS-based authentication, if the GPS system technique avails, then ATM system finds out the current location of customer mobile. If current location of the customer is same with the ATM location, then it considers the user as a valid one. If mobile message system is enabled, then the system sends a message to customer with the credential data, the code. As I mentioned before, the code will be 4-digit one. User would be able to input this code into the system, which uses to authenticate his user at last time. If the input data is matched with sending data, then the system will permit the user to access their account. This will be the final that is the third layer is the final one, and then the user will be able to access the account details and he'll be able to transact it. Thus, the authentication completed via 3 stages. After completing this authentication, user will be able to deposit their money, or can withdraw their money, or can transfer their money, or you can do any payments, any bill payments from that. Customer can also make e-coin from the system. As an example, here a customer select a window option is visible to withdraw their money from the account. When customer select withdraw option, then system provides a screen to input the amount like this. So when customer select withdraw option, the system provides a screen to input the amount where the user will be able whether the user can want to withdraw it. This is the withdraw window which is shown in this current figure. Thus, the system would be able to provide the user after validating him, and the user would be able to transact the deposit, money transfer from one account to another account, bill payment or e-coin generation, etc., as like as withdrawn money transferring or not. Though the system maintains all of existing authentication, combines with different layers, it ensures topmost security at money transaction electronically. So, coming to the conclusion, here we have defined a procedure to ensuring high-level security in electronic transaction format ATM system. It ensures 100% security on authenticating the access and preventing from any frauds. So the system provides topmost security for accessing the account details, where the user would be able to highly secure his or her account. The process is comfortable for all levels of users. This eliminates conventional system to carrying an ATM card for transaction and provide no card solution for transaction. This will be most promising technology at electronic money transaction. We have also worked on further security at transaction time and universal money transaction. Our future plan in this regards is to provide the complete solution in money transaction in all levels of financial operation. So finally, we'd like to conclude that this could be the probable solution for preventing any frauds while authenticating while validating the user details in ATM or in any electronic any electronic transactions. Thank you. This is the end of our presentation. If you have any doubts, please mention it in the comment section so that we'll acknowledge the question and we'll answer it accordingly. Thank you.